New sightings over the town that they're calling UFO USA.
We see something in the sky. What it is, we don't know.
The exclusive pictures next.
There's been a new wave of strange activity in the skies over Gulf Breeze, Florida, and we've got the latest pictures. Doug Bruckner shows us what's going on in the town they call UFO USA.
Here it is. Here's our videotapes. Look at it. You tell us. We don't know, but it's there.
And what appears on those videotapes is a mystery. UFOs hovering as plain as day. Spherical, shiny objects seeming to defy gravity. And then in the blink of an eye, they're gone. But they keep coming back to Gulf Breeze, Florida. It's an affluent community nestled in the Florida Panhandle. Some say the UFOs are attracted to the crystal white sand. Others say it's the sparkling clear waters. Whatever it is, the UFOs are coming in droves.
Why the UFO is coming here, why we witness it so much, I don't know the answers to the why.
Ed Walters makes his living as a housing contractor. But 7 years ago, his life was changed forever when he looked to the sky and saw his first UFO.
I deal with concrete and steel, and UFOs are just something I was never interested in, and until I saw one myself.
And here are those photographs Ed took in 1987 with his Polaroid camera. He saw the objects over 20 times, and late last year, the objects returned. He couldn't resist catching them on videotape.
I got my little video 8mm camera and went down to the beach in the direction where I saw these white flashes.
Ed scanned the horizon, hoping to capture one of those flashes in his camera. But instead, he saw the source of the mysterious strobes.
Oh, geez, goodness gracious. Over those dunes right there.
A UFO hovering silently above the beach.
There she is, right there. Oh, my God. I kind of felt a little insecure being out on the beach all by myself.
And then the UFO disappeared into thin air.
Wouldn't you know it?
It interacts with the boat, with the person walking. These are the kind of things that you look for in a video.
Bland Pugh is a field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network. He's spent years investigating thousands of sightings over Gulf Breeze, and he says that Ed Walters' footage remains completely unexplainable.
Unless Ed Walters had a brother-in-law named Spielberg, it'd be pretty hard to do tapes like that.
Bland Pugh is investigating other videos from Gulf Breeze. They have an uncanny similarity to Ed Walters' silent hovering spheres. One such video, shot by a man named Martin Allen, was of special interest.
He set a video camera up and left it unattended and caught the UFO as it streaked across the screen in approximately 1 second. Several days later, Martin Allen looked outside. He saw this UFO hovering out over the beach.
The UFO seems to accelerate from a dead hover to blinding speed in nothing flat.
It accelerated from 0 to over 2,000 miles an hour before it exited off of the screen.
Another UFO video that was submitted to the Mutual UFO Network appeared to have that same acceleration, but the picture is even clearer. Again, the object hovers without a sound and appears to be a solid reflective sphere. Then, without so much as a shudder, the object streaks out of frame. 3 similar images caught within the viewfinders of 3 separate videographers. Could it be a collective hoax? The experts say no. But the question remains, why are these objects appearing over Gulf Breeze?
Why Gulf Breeze? I don't know. That's a $64,000 question.
UFO investigators have conducted painstaking tests on the videos you've just seen. They say they can find nothing to indicate these images were fake.
Gulf Breeze, Florida, just 2 miles long and half a mile wide. a tiny coastal town situated on the shores of Florida's Panhandle, a town that seems to have been selected by visitors, but not just any tourists.
It is an intense area for UFO activity. There's no doubt about that.
They are interested in us helping the world become aware.
The matter was going down, or the craft was going straight up.
Gulf Breeze has become a center for UFO activity. Residents are determined to find out why. In the last 12 months, they've documented 122 unexplained sightings, an average of 1 every 3 days. Last week, we sent our producer, Lila McMurray, and a crew to investigate the UFO phenomenon in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And in the evening on 2 consecutive days, they saw what can legitimately be described as unidentified flying objects. On the sands overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, our crew videotaped these incredible pictures.
Wide! Look, they're nice! Wide! I'm talking to it. Okay, so who's got a light?
We were looking over the water up in the sky, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this red light appeared. I was kind of shocked by it because I didn't see it coming from the ground, or I didn't see it coming up, down, anywhere. It just appeared. And someone handed me binoculars, and when I looked through the binoculars, I could see a ring of 6 red lights.
Our crew is not the only objective observer tantalized by UFOs at Gulf Breeze. Art Hufford is a chemical engineer, a scientist with a professional bias towards hard facts. His sighting led him to join and later become president of the Pensacola Mutual UFO Network. Called MUFON, it is a non-profit organization dedicated to scientific research of UFOs.
Look!
My interest in UFOs began in November of 1987 as a result of my wife and I having a sighting late one afternoon. We were driving on the way home, and suddenly above treetops ahead of us we saw this object, craft. I think in this area the total number of witnesses at one time was up to about 500.
We weren't ready to say automatically that this was something that was from outer space or from another planet.
Patty Weatherford is an auditor for the state of Florida. She became interested in UFOs after what she claims was a bizarre experience.
I remembered waking up, or semi-waking up, and the room, my bedroom, was just filled with light. It was just brilliant white light. People need to just start opening their minds a little bit.
Those who have opened their minds to the subject of UFOs include Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, former astronaut Gordon Cooper, and any number of aviators and scientists. Credible people seeking documented answers, just as in Gulf Breeze.
I've had enough sightings now that have indicated to me there is definitely an object there. We're not just seeing a light fly in the sky.
Most Gulf Breeze sightings occur at night, and many locals spend their evenings searching the night sky for evidence of UFOs. And the evidence they have found is mounting. These home videos record 6 separate UFO sightings. Watching them would give even the firmest skeptic time to pause.
Oh, look, it's brighter!
The one on the right is going down a little bit, and the one on the left's coming up.
Oh!
Whoa!
Oh, it's kind of green. It's got a green halo around it, doesn't it?
Oh, boy, that is close tonight.
Dr. Bruce Maccabee has a PhD in optical physics. He works for the military and has studied the Gulf Breeze phenomenon.
In September, I decided to go down and go to Gulf Breeze and see for myself what was going on. I looked up, and sure enough, here was a whitish light up there, and I put the binoculars up, and I could see an elliptical ring of 8 points of light. It lasted for about 70 seconds and then just faded out.
While we were in Gulf Breeze, we went to the beach after sundown to inspect the skies. And when we captured these unexplained lights on videotape, there were other witnesses as well.
We saw the red light appear, and I could see 2 lights to begin with. It stayed for about 2.5 minutes, and all of a sudden turned a brilliant white. And when it did that, it lit up, and I could see craft above it. It was kind of an oval shape. It was beautiful to me. It's the first time I've seen it.
We was over there just, fishing, and we saw what everybody else saw, like a red star is what it kind of looked like, as far off in the distance as it was. But
it's like it kind of got bright and then
bright and dim,
and then went away and came back.
Then when it did that, I don't know, it got real bright, like a greenish white type light, and burned out, and then it came back a few minutes later, and I have no idea what it was.
Skeptics attribute the lights in the sky to the military. Eglin Air Force Base is located just east of Gulf Breeze, but if the military is involved in any covert operations, we will probably be the last to know. The Air Force refused to speak with us or even offer any explanations.
If it is a military test in Gulf Breeze, it seems awfully strange to me that the military would be testing their objects or their prototypes in people's backyards.
For now, the origins of these lights are left an unexplained mystery, leaving skeptics to question and believers to prove.
Something that looks like a spacecraft was caught floating just above the tree line. Videos like this have convinced quite a few Gulf Breeze residents that UFOs are real. A small town located just across the bridge from Pensacola. It's been one of the busiest places in the United States for UFO sightings since 1987.
And we have over 500 witnesses, and we have about 262 recorded sightings, and we've investigated almost 200 of those.
The investigations have been conducted by a small group of Gulf Breeze residents. Most are members of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, a grassroots national organization of private citizens who've taken it upon themselves to try to get to the bottom of the UFO mystery. One possible explanation has surfaced. Gulf Breeze is virtually surrounded by 3 major military bases, all with extensive air traffic.
We call the military. We're told, no, we did not have anything in the area at the time that you had your sighting. Of course, there will be those that say, well, that's the typical military response. Even if there was something going on, they would deny it.
The wave of sightings in Gulf Breeze started with this man, Ed Walters. In November of 1987, Ed and his wife Frances took some amazing photographs of a flying saucer. Fearing ridicule, at first Ed kept the pictures to himself, but then he sent them to the Gulf Breeze Sentinel, the local newspaper. Publisher Dwayne Cook knew his reputation would be on the line if he decided to print the pictures.
I was nervous, naturally, and my folks came in Wednesday afternoon while we were putting the paper together. And I said, you're not going to believe what we're getting ready to run in this week's paper. Showed them the pictures, and they looked at them and said, that's what we saw. So at that point, I more or less lost my fear of going with it because, you know, if your own folks see it, if you can't trust them, who can you trust?
As it turns out, at least a dozen other people saw the same thing that night, including Art Hufford and several other people who then became members of MUFON.
I never felt more alone than I felt that day, November the 11th, 1987, seeing this thing, and then later, nobody saying very much, and then, of course, several weeks later, you know, people were coming forward, and fortunately, you came forward a month later and said, hey, I saw that same thing.
Dr. Bruce Maccabee, an expert photo analyst employed by the Navy with over 20 years' experience, spent several months studying the Walters pictures. Maccabee also had Walters use a stereo Polaroid camera the next time he saw something.
Some of his early photos contemplated the possibility that they were hoaxed by a double exposure method. But there is a question of whether or not anybody knows how to fake stereo pictures and do it well. I concluded that doing the photography, if it was a hoax, combined with all the other sightings, the testimony of Ed and his family, the intensive investigation, all ruled out the possibility that this was a hoax. And so I concluded in late May of 1988 that it was real.
Since 1987, South Shoreline Park has become a magnet for skywatching. The skywatchers have been able to videotape several unidentified objects. Most of them look like nothing more than small points of light in the sky. But close examination has revealed that the lights are doing something that science says is impossible. They move at odd angles, change size, travel at unheard of speeds, all while never making a sound.
One of the more recent videos shows a light that was red, and all of a sudden it turns white and starts flashing. These extremely brilliant pulses of light. It appears that it's as if the actual size of the image, which would be related to the size of the light source itself, changed in like 1/30th of a second or so from one TV frame to the next. We don't have anything that could do that so far as I know.
Since at least 1947, elements of our government have been absolutely aware that we have non-human, highly advanced intelligence visiting this planet. If the secret is impossible to keep, then we must find a way to adjust to this extraordinary oddity. Bottom line is, at all costs, preserve the social order. That has always been the stakes, and of course those are very high stakes. Those are war stakes, okay? We're looking at a war here. They won't go away. The latest Gulf Breeze sightings are adding an ominous new layer to the UFO story. Sightings has obtained exclusive photographs and videotapes of mysterious craft flying in broad daylight. This new evidence is among the most significant UFO footage ever recorded.
The photo and video evidence that we've recently seen from Gulf Breeze is far more important than all the previous UFO photo and video evidence combined.
It used to be just another resort town in southern Florida, but Gulf Breeze has changed. Vacationing families drawn to the area's tropical waters and white sand beaches aren't the only visitors in the area. For nearly a decade, the name Gulf Breeze has become synonymous with UFOs. It's been going on almost continuously since 1987. It is not a flash-in-the-pan situation. The clusters of sightings over Gulf Breeze are taking on a new look. Rare daylight events have UFO researchers scrambling for an explanation.
We now are going through a series, it seems, of daylight sightings, and the nighttime sightings have almost completely diminished.
90% of all reported or recorded UFO sightings occur at night. Only 10% are seen during daytime hours and are rarely captured on tape or film. Along with the increase in daylight sightings has been an increase in the number of eyewitness reports.
The people in the community who have said that they've seen UFOs are people like doctors and lawyers and real estate people, and it's just not a bunch of lunatics running around saying that they saw lights in the sky. It's very different.
This is not a movie. It is actual footage of a UFO seen over Gulf Breeze in broad daylight.
The daylight sightings that we've had of the last year have all been authenticated. The photographs, the videos, the witnesses have all proved positive.
Here in Gulf Breeze, there's so many sightings and there's so much going on. Either you have to go on with your life or you let it just drive you crazy. And so I've just chose to go on with my life.
On November 28, 1993, Ed Walters, a successful local contractor, saw bright flashes of light in the afternoon sky. He grabbed his home video camera and drove toward the lights.
I actually drove down to the public beach, got out of my truck and calmly walked out onto the beach, hoping that I might see these bright flashes once again. Walking along here towards the west. Continued to scan around, look around. Panning around here. 360, there's the sand dunes, that's the north. Oh, jeez, goodness gracious. Over those dunes right there. It appeared and flew in from the north, hovered out over the beach, over the shoreline, and I dashed over to towards the sand dunes and dropped to my knees and started filming it.
This is what Ed Walters captured on videotape. The shaded, disc-shaped object appears to hover overhead, then abruptly disappears.
There she is, right there. Oh my God, just hovering right there. Oh, Jesus, wouldn't you know it?
Jeff Sainio is a video analyst with MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. Recognized worldwide as an expert in his field, Sainio believes Walters' tape is authentic.
Notice particularly when he sees the object, how the oscilloscope shows that the camera was indeed bounced around.
Goodness gracious.
You'll see a lot of video disturbance there, which is typical of a raw video of a camera that's been bounced around. That eliminates editing as a possibility for creating this thing.
There she is, right there.
Ed Walters is no stranger to UFO documentation. He snapped the first Gulf Breeze UFO photograph in 1987. He also took this picture, which he believes is a near miss between a UFO and a fighter jet.
And the jet was continuing on and passed right, looked to me like it was headed right at the UFO.
Ed Walters has come under fire from skeptics who do not believe that one man could have seen and documented so many significant UFO events. But Walters is not bothered by charges that he is a sophisticated hoaxer.
There are some people who just absolutely will not consider the evidence. They will kill the messenger. Judge me if you will, but the fact is I've videotaped and saw a UFO.
With enough time, money, luck, and skill, anything can be faked. But unless Ed Walters has Steven Spielberg as a brother-in-law to fake this video, 2 different types of photographs, would be extremely difficult for an ordinary man to fake.
Walters isn't the only one to document a daytime sighting. This footage was shot by a Gulf Breeze resident who chooses to remain anonymous. He gave the tape and his story to local reporter Bland Pugh.
The UFO, as he observed it, came out of the southeast. It moved over his head at an incredibly fast speed and disappeared out to the northwest. This particular sighting in itself was a landmark sighting in that it actually showed the UFO disappearing or leaving, as it were.
See it coming in here, it's very indistinct, appears to be moving relatively slowly. So here's a slowdown of the same video, object hovering there motionless and zips off instantaneously. Barely make it out as it zips off to the right. The object was about 3 miles away on the left side, got up to about 2 miles away on the right side, was doing about 4,000 miles an hour.
Still another documented sighting comes from an eyewitness known only as Philip. The flight pattern is similar to that on the other videotapes, and so is the shape of the craft.
The various videos corroborate each other. They corroborate previous witness testimony, and so it all, the pieces of the puzzle all fit together.
Military bases in the area may have information about what is flying above southern Florida, but every attempt to obtain comment from the military is not only denied, it is ignored.
It could be that the military is tied into this. I'm not accusing, nor am I saying they are covering up. I'm just saying that they've just kept their mouth shut.
I do believe there is a growing pattern of contact which suggests that we are getting closer to actually meeting the neighbors. Gulf Breeze is part of that pattern.
What in the world is it?
It's a question that residents in Gulf Breeze, Florida have been asking for almost 10 years. There have been over 1,000 individual sightings of unidentified flying objects, beginning in 1986 with this historic photograph taken by Ed Walters. Since then, Walters and others continue to capture UFOs on film and tape.
The activity in our area has certainly not stopped. It has never stopped, and it looks like it's on the increase, hopefully.
There's a lot more people willing to acknowledge that they've had a sighting than 5 years ago. People were much more quiet about it.
The sightings in Gulf Breeze have become more frequent, in large part because groups of amateur ufologists now scan the skies nightly. And the nation's largest UFO research organization, MUFON, now has a branch office here, headed by Art Hufford.
The purpose of our local MUFON organization, I think, is really twofold. One is to investigate using the best scientific methods we can, UFO sighting reports, close encounters, abduction experiences. And then secondly, to try to educate, to share what we learn locally and also what we learn from what's going around the country and around the globe.
One of the most dramatic UFO encounters to date occurred on April 28, 1994. Ken and Carol Baker were driving home, and as this simulation demonstrates, the Bakers claim to have seen 2 glowing orbs. What the Bakers saw is similar to videotape of 2 bright UFOs shot in the same area, hovering over the Gulf Breeze shoreline.
At approximately 10:40 at night, my wife was driving me to my place of employment. I looked out the front windshield and we saw a white object. I looked out and I didn't know what it was I was looking at. And it was round like a bubble. Around this light, or around this bubble, was a smaller light that seemed to be orbiting around it. I try to be scientific in all the things that I deal with. I was in the Air Force for 7 years, and I've seen different crafts, different ships we have. It wasn't anything we had seen before.
With the increasing number of sightings by credible townspeople and new videotape evidence, even hardened skeptics believe something is going on over Gulf Breeze. But is it a UFO?
There's a program afoot to try to slowly educate people all over the world that we're not alone. Who knows, maybe one of those days we'll have that landing on the White House lawn experience where no longer is there any doubt that they're here, they're among us.
Sitting in the sky, could be some kind of a military craft, I guess. I doubt it, though. I think it's some kind of an alien craft, if you ask me.
Gulf Breeze resident Ed Walters has also captured a new UFO on film. This Polaroid instant picture shows an unidentified craft offshore with what appears to be waterspout activity just below it. Optical physicist Dr. Bruce Maccabee enlarged and examined the snapshot, and he sent us this lengthy report. In his opinion, the waterspout UFO is not a fake. Dr. Maccabee, a civilian scientist with the U.S. Navy, joins us now to discuss his findings. Dr. Maccabee, you conclude that this photograph is not a fake. Does that mean it is a genuine UFO?
I'd say the chances are very small that that could be a hoax. In this case, the sighting, as reported by Ed, lasted a couple of minutes at the most, but to put a large object out there in the middle of the Santa Rosa Sound would probably take hours.
Dr. Maccabee, Ed Walters has been a key figure in the photographs and in the logging of activity in Gulf Breeze. Is it likely that one individual would be more prone to see and experience UFOs than some other individual?
Ed Walters certainly has been a focus of a lot of attention, but for about 2.5 years, starting in November 1990 and running through July 1992, a group of people I call the Gulf Breeze research team down there went out virtually every night, logged about 180 or so sighting events, a few of which Ed attended. But most of those sightings, the witnesses were people who lived in the area, people who were just traveling through the area, tourists, and so on.
Dr. Maccabee, how do your professional colleagues react to your interest in UFOs and your willingness to go out on a limb to say that there's something here?
So I should point out, by the way, I do work at a Navy laboratory. And I have found that virtually every government laboratory, and I presume most civilian laboratories around the country, have people who are interested in this subject, just as there are people in virtually, I guess, all walks of life who have a sincere interest in finding out what the truth is.